Good morning, everybody. I love Wolf Druid. There's just something magical about running around as a wolf, biting at people, eating their faces, and using all of the very cool wolf moves that you get. Just the animations just feel really good, how it kind of bounds across the battlefield, the cool backflip when you do a takedown. There's a lot of good animations in Wolf and a lot of things that make it very fun to play. However, Wolf does have one major downside that is not seen by its alternate form, the bear, and that is area of effect. Wolf, unfortunately, does not get enough area of effect in comparison to a lot of the more modern classes, especially with the advent of strike through, and sometimes Wolf can feel slow, just a little bit sluggish, which is odd. How does something that moves so fast feel sluggish? And how do you fix it? Certainly the answer would hopefully be to get strike through on this type of character. However, you can't actually get strike through on a wolf because wolves don't get strike through at all. The only circumstance in which they would get strike through is if you happen to be a tier 5 Grandmaster of Flowers in your epic moment, and that's really not that ideal for the general gameplay feel. So the answer is to instead sub in as many area of effect attacks as you can. The problem is that a lot of the area of effect attacks feel kind of clunky on the wolf. Most cleave attacks feel like they don't do that much damage as you're actually fighting your way through monsters, especially considering they don't have any crazy multipliers on them, so you're just kind of like doing a bit of an area of effect chip away. But given how long it takes to cast a lot of these area of effect attacks, in a lot of cases, you don't even really need to care about the damage that they're doing. You might as well just keep attacking the monster and then moving to the next one and then moving to the next one. However, I thought about this and I realized there is an answer. The answer is the Chains? That's right, Chains Druid. This character gives you all the benefits of the Shadar-kai chains, getting both chain attacks, fixing all of the area of effect problems that Wolf happens to have, while also at the same time retaining the high single target damage that a Wolf gets, and all of the crowd control as well. 17 Druid and 3 Ranger Shadar-kai. But hold on, Strimtom, I hear you saying, there's no rogue in there. A Heart of Wood? Yes, you don't need to use a Heart of Wood to play this character, but I did. The reason why I went with 3 Ranger is because Rangers out of the Tempest tree, which is a dual-wielding tree that does not work in animal form, does give you the ability to treat scimitars as a light weapon. And I wanted to play as a scimitar using Druid, so it just seemed appropriate. Shadar-kai needs a light weapon to be able to use their chains, and so the scimitar using the Tempest tree seemed like the best case scenario. This character will of course work without that. You can just instead go with 3 Rogue and 17 Druid, getting all the fun Druid spells. The 3 Rogues, so you don't have to use any Hearts of Wood to change anything, and just use like Vistani Knife Fighter or another weapon of some kind. But I wanted to do the style, I wanted to have the cool character, I wanted to use the cool items, and scimitars are pretty rad, so I went with this. And I gotta say, it is unbelievable how much better it feels. Basically, anytime you're on one monster, you kind of just chop it up, because wolves are very good at killing one monster. However, the second you encounter multiple, out come the chains. Chain 1 and Chain 2, just immediately ripping through any target. Now, of course, you won't always have your chain. However, just using even the basic chain on a short 12-second cooldown, that one single press means you can then take some time and just quickly 1 or 2 tap every single monster through. And since Wolf just happens to get so much attack speed, it goes by really quick, almost like you're running at full speed through monsters as you're chopping them down. Additionally, you get Snow Slide to kind of finish off a little bit of that area of effect damage, and given how much crowd control your character is able to get, even though you're playing as a Wolf Druid, and in light armor I might add, you're super tanky with high physical resistance rating, high hit points, and constantly knocking down, stunning, and freezing your targets so they can't do anything. Since this is a Shadar-kai, you start at level 15, and starting at 15, this is a complete joke to level. It was extremely fast and easy. I just went and got a Barovian Scimitar from Ravenloft, and chopped up the rest of the game. Very, very strong, very, very fast leveler, something I would definitely recommend if you have the time. The benefit of being a druid is that you also get a lot of the healing spells at the same time. Access to stuff like Greater Vigor or Greater Vigor Mass, Heal, Regenerate, and Regenerate Mass, as well as Raising Dead in combat. This character is exciting for me as an endgame character because a lot of melee characters generally take epic defensive fighting. Epic defensive fighting is one of the few things that's actually going to protect you by giving you a whole bunch of extra health as you get to level 30. However, epic defensive fighting really limits your spellcasting range, and I didn't want to deal with that on this type of character. I figured, hey, if I already have a lot of Druid, and I'm going to be pretty tanky, and in the thick of things, being able to just kind of like save somebody's life by casting a spell halfway across the map just seemed like a really good idea. Fortunately, the epic Natural Fighting feat allows your character to have competence bonus to hit points without needing to use epic defensive fighting, and so this character, with its high levels of Druid, is able to get some devotion spell power and also act as a emergency healer. Not a healer, you're not a healer on this build, but in case of emergency, say the healer gets bit by some monster, or the tank starts going down, or the healer dies, or the tank dies, you can sort of fill in a role and very quickly bust out some very high yield heals in a short period of time. Spell point sustain isn't even a problem, as wolves get an ability called Essence of the Shrike, which just lets them get temporary spell points every single time they critically strike. This is especially important because since you're using a scimitar, your critical strike chance is through the moon, allowing you to just crit on almost every single attack, meaning you pretty much have an infinite amount of spell points. Before I started playing this character, I had a lot of reservations about running a Wolf Druid again, because damn, Bear Druid just feels so good. Like that strike through as you're swiping through monsters, and the incredible feeling of using Bear Roar and just clearing out a room, God, it felt so good. So I was a little nervous about how this character was going to feel, but Shadar-kai just strikes again, showing that it doesn't really matter how much damage you do, it's how much AoE you have that makes your character feel good during the leveling process. I can't recommend this character build enough, and I'm excited to share it with you. And not only share it with you, but also share with you the full gearing list, so if you decide you want to take this all the way to the level cap, you've got something to aspire to, as I've been running this character in some R10s, and it has been very, very, very fun to play. Now I'm going to pass it over to me with the build. Answering the age-old question, can a wolf swing a chain? And the answer is absolutely yes. Welcome to Chains Druid. This is my 17 Druid, 3 Ranger, Shadar-kai chain character. Now, the reason why we're 17 Druid on this build is because I like Snow Slide. You don't need Snow Slide. It's my favorite spell in the whole game, so I wanted to use it, and it requires 17 levels of Druid. This allows you to freeze monsters solid and slide around really quickly. And 3 levels of Ranger is because Druids use scimitars. That's kind of like the classic Druid weapon, so I wanted to use a scimitar. But you can't use scimitar with chains because they're a medium weapon or a heavy weapon. But you can turn them into a light weapon if you happen to be a Ranger by just using this Tempest ability right here, which requires 3 levels of Ranger, which says you treat scimitars as if they were a light weapon, allowing me to use a scimitar and also use my chain. However, Shadar-kai start with 1 level of Rogue, which means I did use a lesser Heart of Wood to change the Rogue level into a Ranger level. So as I said, if you're unsure about what feats you should be taking and that sort of thing, if you maybe you don't want to spend the +1 Heart of Wood, my solution to this problem, if you don't want to spend the +1 Heart of Wood to make this character, and you want to stay it exactly the way it is, just do 3 Rogue and 17 Ranger, or not Rangers, 3 Rogue, 17 Druid, and instead of getting the Tempest tree here, just use Vistani Knife Fighter instead, and use a dagger as opposed to the Scimitar. That is an easier option. Or if you still want to keep the scimitar stuff, you could just drop down 1 level of Druid, get rid of Snow Slide, and keep everything else the same. However, this character is a strength-based character. All strength all the time, with con on the side, a little bit of wisdom as well. Although the main drivers are strength and constitution for this character build. You don't really need intelligence, you don't need dexterity, and you don't need charisma. They don't matter too much. As far as your skills go, concentration, heal, listen, spot, swim, these are the ones I put points into. You don't need listen, and you don't need spot, and you don't need search. You don't even need swim, really. Mostly just concentration and heal are the only things you care about. So concentration, heal, and then I also went with swim. You could use balance if you want. I didn't care that much. As far as the feats go, your character wants to take all of the combat style feat natural fighting. Because I am a druid in animal form, natural fighting is the only combat style that applies. So no 2-weapon fighting, no single weapon fighting, no 2-handed fighting, just natural fighting. So you take these as soon as you can. Additionally, I took Metamagic Quicken because Quicken lets you cast your spells faster. Normally, I don't take Quicken on Animal Form Druid, but I did here because of one of the epic feats you get later on, the Perfect Natural Fighting, which gives you 15% competence bonus to hit points in Wolf form. This means that I don't actually need to use Epic Defensive Fighting, which reduces your spell range. And so since I am not reducing my spell range, it's kind of nice to be able to just quickly pop a heal onto somebody, especially if you're doing high Reaper content, which is what this character is designed for, so that is what we are doing. So Quicken Spell, kind of nice here. Then I took Improved Critical Slashing, because I'm using a Scimitar. Again, if you use a dagger build, go with Piercing instead of Slashing. Pretty straightforward. And then outside of that, I took some defensive feats here, because I had some extra feats I didn't know what to do with. So I took Dodge and Mobility. You don't need to take Dodge and Mobility if you don't have any Dexterity Tomes, because I can only take this because I had Dexterity Tomes. If you don't have them, you can just take 2 extra copies of Toughness, and it's fine. Additionally, I also took Snake Blood. So because it was a joke and I had no more feats to take, I ran out of what I needed. So in the description, you're going to be able to find a link to the full written guide, and it'll have suggestions that are not snake blood that you can follow along with. As far as the rest of the epic feats, overwhelming critical, epic reflexes, epic damage reduction, just stuff that makes sense. And then legendary feats, sign of the ethereal plane, sneak attack dice, melee range power. It just kind of makes sense there. Spells. In this case, what do you take? You take all of the wolf damage spells, so Takedown, Baiting Bite, Jaws of Winter, and Snowslide, and then the rest of it, healing and buff spells. That's it. You know, buff spell like Magic Fang, or Ram's Might for some extra damage, or Jump. Resist Energy, really powerful. Healing spells, ooh, Vigor, Cure Wounds, a lot of stuff like that. Death Ward, Reincarnate. And then as you get later on, you get a bunch of spells you don't even need. I don't cast Fires of Purity. I don't cast Storm Rage. I cast Heal sometimes. That's pretty much it. So, like I said, just keep in mind, take the wolf damage spells first, and then make sure you take other supportive spells around that. As far as the enhancement tree goes, this character is built off of the Shadar-kai, Nature's Warrior, Nature's Protector, and Tempest tree. Shadar-kai grants you not only displacement, but also the extra upgraded chain. So you can knock down people with the chain, you get dodge when you use your chain, and the greater spike chain attack, which does an insane amount of damage. This is extremely good with +2 critical threat range and multiplier. With your scimitar, this means you have a 13 to 20 times 5, I think. It's nice when you use this chain attack. You just hit really, really hard, plus some sneak attack damage. Nature's Warrior Tree is where you get +1 multi with your scimitar. Additionally, you get infinite mana from Essence of the Shrike. I did take Action Boost Double Strike. I rarely use it. I mostly just use Haste Boost in epics, so you could probably swap this out for something else. You get the ability to have Ghost Touch as well as Ghost Wolf Pack, which is a good confusion effect, which basically stops all monsters from doing anything, plus the incorporeal defense is really nice. Prey on the Weak for extra helplessness damage, a good defensive buff in Flight, Ferocity for some extra melee power, while you're raging as well. This character does in fact rage. And then we have Go for the Kill for some extra damage, as well as this knockdown effect, Jaws of Ice for temporary hit points, and Swift Hunter for attack speed as well as evasion. And we do use evasion because I'm using light armor on this build. I find Throat Rip is not that good, and I think Alpha Strike is too expensive, and I don't need it on this character. Nature's Protector gives you the ability to rage. On top of that, it also gives you Nature's Defense, which gives you a bunch of buffs like physical, magical resistance rating, and bonuses to saving throws. So very, very nice, and I take all this stuff here. And then, of course, Tempest Ranger grants me the extra Tempest here, the Haste Boost, and then I get this effect, which gives extra reflex saves and reflex saves versus traps, which is surprisingly good. As I said, if you want to play as a Vistani build, you would take the points out of Tempest, put them into Vistani instead, and maybe even peel a few points out of Nature's Protector just to get up to here to the quick reflexes, and you'll be a happy camper. Now, as far as Epic Destiny goes, my character is in Fury of the Wild for the endgame. I did end up leveling this character as a Shadar-kai, and that's pretty apparent because one of my feats that I took, I forgot to actually do the Epic Destiny feats. I took First Blood. First Blood was very good, and I enjoyed mucking about with the Shadar-kai, or not Shadar-kai, Shadow Dancer, but as good as Shadow Dancer was, I found I just wanted to be tankier for level 30, so I went with Fury of the Wild instead. Although if you have more pass lives and stuff, you can definitely get a ton of DPS out of Shadow Dancer. It is more single target DPS than Fury of the Wild, just because of how insane getting the doubling of your sneak attack on every hit is within a character that attacks this fast. However, I took Harbinger of Chaos, and you need it for up here in the Fury of the Wild tree, where you double up on the health and physical resistance rating from this if you have Harbinger of Chaos, plus it's a little bit of damage itself. Fury of the Wild is great. It grants me extra trip DCs and a whole bunch of them. A bunch of stats, like, what is this, +4 strength, dex, and con while using Primal Scream. Double the effect of Ram's Might and Animal Growth, which is +4 to damage and +8 strength and 8 con, which is fantastic. And then also you get this extra attack bonus and fortification bypass, as well as the bonus damage while in animal form. A bunch of double strike, which is always pretty good. More helplessness damage, and then everything at the top is good. 10% bonus life. The ability to keep yourself alive the entire time. Great leveler for some damage, and Nature's Fury for some damage. The only difference I make from a lot of other builds is I did not take Adrenaline, I took Quick Cutter. Now, Quick Cutter for me I think is pretty good because Quick Cutter grants you 6% bonus to the dodge chance of your character, and then once you have that buff on you, you hit him again with Cutter, and it applies a huge damage over time effect, and it's surprisingly big. It goes up to about 6,000 damage once you get it max stacked after 3 applications, 6,000 damage every 2 seconds, which is not too bad. And against larger bosses, raid bosses and stuff, it tends to chop through things pretty quickly, so it is nice to have. Additionally, every time you attack, you reapply the buff as well, so you can keep it up 100% of the time. And if you happen to have Unbridled Fury going, you constantly have this quick buff active on your character, which means you're just always applying Cutter, giving you way more damage than you would otherwise get. Out of Draconic Incarnation, I take Draconic Rage so I can cast spells while raging. I wouldn't say this is absolutely necessary, but since my character can cast spells at a distance, because I'm not using Epic Defensive Fighting, Draconic Rage is just really, really strong for allowing you to cast spells while raging and heal your friends when they're in a pinch without sacrificing any of your damage, or you have to like pay attention to some unrage and re-rage mechanic, which can get kind of hairy if you're not paying that much attention. And then finally, the rest of the points go into Dreadnought, because Dreadnought gives me extra action boosts, which I just use on Haste Boost. Anyway, so it's not too bad. I might consider making a change here to get some extra reflex saves, to bump up my reflex saves in this character. I don't know, I'm still thinking about it. And then as far as the itemization goes, this character is a scimitar using character, and I'm using the Fractured Elegance because it's the best scimitar in the game. So that's why we're using this one. It just has the most damage, so it's pretty sweet. Outside of that, I've also got the Hexbreaker. Now this item is very cool, and I'll kind of explain why. So the Hexbreaker is a buckler that has guard breaking. And what guard breaking does is it makes it so that if you critically hit, the monster becomes dazed and they can't move. Now, dazing a monster, you might not know exactly how good that is, but basically, I crit on a 15 to 20, and I attack this fast. That's pretty good. But when I'm haste boosted, I attack this fast. And all of these attacks, every single time I critically hit, which is all the time, I daze monsters. Additionally, I get extra critical threat range on my chain and my greater spike chain attack, which means that every single time I critically hit one of those guys, they also get stunned. So I can go into a pack of characters on R10, use my double chain, and pretty much every single monster is going to end up being stunned at some point by this guard breaking effect, which makes it extremely good. Plus it grants spell saves 10. So even though my saving throws might not seem as impressive, getting extra 10 spell saves plus the Reaper bonuses, my character's got like an 80-ish reflex save plus other bonuses. It's pretty sweet, actually, how this character works against spells and other effects, so it's pretty nice. Now, the set bonuses are kind of weird. I don't really use any. I mostly just use the part of the family set, so I've got the wild card here, the light armor, so I have evasion, family recruit sigil, and then the hammer fist. Then I have 2 pieces of the winter set from the Deep Snow boots, as well as the Direwolf belt, because I wanted the Deception and the Insightful Seeker. I'm using the Silver Dragon Scale Capelet. Insightful Strength is hard to come by, and I wanted Dodge and Insightful Sheltering, so having that on all in one item, this item is extremely good for this character. My strength item is the Brass Admiral. I didn't know where to get strength, and I needed Insightful Combat Mastery, and this item just kind of came in clutch. I've never used this before, but it's very good for what it does, and I'm very happy that I have this artifact here to kind of shore up some of my defense. And then I get Quality Strength here on the Legendary Bone Figurine, which also conveniently gives me Double Strike. And since this gives Double Strike, and this gives Insightful Double Strike, I figured I'd round it off with Bloodbark Bracers, giving me Quality Double Strike, as well as Raging Strength, which is pretty cool. Also, it's part of the Spring set, and so is the Hexbreaker, giving me 10% artifact bonus to Missile Deflection, a stat I've literally never used. So, sure, we'll see how good it is. I don't see the word deflect very often, but I try not to get hit by ranged attacks anyway, so that's kind of neither here nor there. Dustbone Ring for the trip bonus, and Celestial Ruby for the stunning bonus, as well as accuracy and all that other stuff. And then finally, the goggles, or the Tinkerer goggles, because they give Insightful Deception and Quality Deception. This item build that I have set up here gives you Strength, Insightful Strength, Quality Strength, Double Strike, Insightful Double Strike, Quality Double Strike, Deadly, Insightful Deadly, and Deception, Insightful Deception, Quality Deception, and then Seeker, Insightful Seeker. You've got almost every single offensive stat all built into this one character. Plus, you've got a lot of stats just to be able to knock down guys and stun guys. It's pretty sweet once you actually get into combat. Because remember, my stats might not look impressive here, but that's because I'm missing a lot of the buffs. We don't have the Animal Growth for the extra strength and constitution. We don't have the Rage for the extra strength and constitution. We don't have the extra Ram's Might for the strength and or the actual damage that goes on here. We don't have the Magic Fang for the extra damage, which also applies to your shield. I think I actually have to, it's not going to update unless I actually cast the thing, but gives you more armor class as well, giving you more armor class and more damage in all your attacks. You get a lot of stats with this character, and it can be quite strong, so like plus 130 already, and then this character, because of all the deception effects, ends up with, not spellcasting, general combat, plus 17 to hit on sneak attack, and you get extra sneak attack while doing, or like extra damage while doing stuff. It's a whole thing. Oh, I forgot about Primal Scream, it gets even more. All that extra strength. So your character that you would think would have less stats suddenly has like 85 strength all of a sudden, getting almost 20 from temporary buffs, actually more than 20 from temporary buffs. It's pretty cool overall. So this is how you play Wolf Druid with chains. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe and consider liking the video itself here, as it helps out a lot. And also stay tuned. I've got some more builds coming up for you shortly, so please get ready for that. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. This is my wolf character, soon to be Wolfpede. Thank you for watching. Have a fantastic evening, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.